Yo, what is up, you tubers? Hey, I was sitting here and I was reading earlier in Deuteronomy 9, and I made a video about it. The guy came, and I wanted to talk to you about set apart and how in this life uh, we get held back from some of the stuff that we want, and we have to wait. And there's something in the process of waiting that grows us, and we suffer, and that's hard. And sometimes there is such a great suffering that it is impossible for us to deal with it in a manner that's within our power. So we have these certain mechanisms inside of us, these self-defense, and there's certain triggers for that, and there's different ways of going about it. Some people have that trauma early on in life, and I just grew up. It's like I find all this other stuff, like there's a lot of stuff for me that's not a big deal, and then when these other people hear the story about it, they will inform me of how things that I like. I don't know what normal is. Like, I grew up at the end of the last dirt road, okay? You know what I'm saying? So, like, everybody else's experience is not what I experienced. And that has given me a different perspective. And one of the things, when I started reading the Bible, I always felt downtrodden, like I was nobody and all that kind of stuff, and I'm not qualified, and self-conscious. I was always been kind of fat, always a little bit shorter than everybody. We didn't have money. We didn't have running water, and everybody else did. It seemed like, you watch it TV and stuff. Well, you go to the neighbor's house, watch the TV. They got fancy stuff like a shower and a telephone. And their car, they just flip the switch and their car starts when they flip the switch. And that was not my experience. We were on our own, and it was hold the flashlight level of daily conversation amongst the family. Liable to have a shootout with the neighbor. Liable to have to shoot like, a critter trying to eat the animals, or your dogs, or you. Panthers are a thing in Oklahoma, and my sister, she's about 3 years older than me, so she was a little bit older by the time we moved to the end of the last dirt road. But that's really where my life started being bad. Was there. And shout out to my sister. She protected me a lot. She was really very good. I really appreciate her. Anyway, I started reading this stuff, and I seen that David, it stuck out to me when I read about David, the part where the prophet comes and he's talking to Jesse, and he says, bring your sons, I'm going to anoint one of your sons the king. And he just brings in son after son. No. 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 He runs out of sons. And he's like, is this all the sons that you have? And he says, well, there's David out there watching the sheep or whatever. And I didn't realize that this was the thing. But like, I realized because of the way I grew up, and I was the youngest, and like, I had to go take care of the animals. Like, forgive me, but poo runs downhill. You know what I mean? So like the lowest man on the totem pole has to deal with this stuff nobody else wants to deal with because it's delegated down. And I had to feed and take care of the animals and stuff like that and stuff. You know what I mean? So I realized that, like, you know, well, my sister had gone to school, and, like, you know, my mom's a woman and everything like that. And Dad was out on the road trucking, and everybody had their roles to fulfill. And that meant that I had to go out there and work and run a chainsaw and, you know, build fence and hustle some, you know, side money. If I wanted a new pair of boots, then I better go earn a pair of boots or whatever. So when I'm reading this for the first time, just as soon as I see that, I was like, David was downtrodden. Like, I didn't know that most people back then, the shepherd was a lowly position. You know, it was a very humbling thing to be a shepherd and to take care of the sheep. That's not like a landowner kingship, you know, understand how to operate this, you know, massive kingdom situation. This is like hit that thing with a stick before it eats the sheep type of deal. You know what I mean? Bending fences and, you know, staying on watch. And, you know, sometimes you got to stay out there in the barn like something's eating the chickens at night. That means I get to stay in the chicken shed tonight. And whatever snake, possum, raccoon, panther, bear, whatever shows up, when it shows up, I have to dispatch with extreme prejudice. I'm going to kill this predator that's taking the animals out. You know what I mean? And the lessons and all that kind of stuff like that. Like now, here it is, 2025, and I'm talking about this. But if you would have talked to me about this in 1990, I'd have been like, okay. You know, like, is it like this everywhere? Isn't this just life? Is this not just Tuesday? I would watch on that TV, and they would show like the Fall Guy. And they had that truck with the big tires on it and stuff. And there was a lot of songs back then about how the truck driver was he was a commendable type of guy. You know what I mean? So I was proud of my dad. I was proud that Dad was out there trucking. You know what I mean? I was like, yeah. You know, shit to them gears. Got all them gauges on the dash and stuff, you know. Kind of cool. You know what I mean? Not exactly like Top Gun cool. You know what I mean? Like the wings are tucked back and this thing is just, you know, and they're doing stuff and flipping off the enemy and, you know, getting the girl. But there was like this Smokey and the Bandit type of thing in my household, and then they played a lot of music and there was a lot of worship and stuff, and it was not worshiping God in an appropriate way. And you know, my favorite beer was Michelob when I was in kindergarten. That's a fact. I would drive them home because I was the only one sober. I would roll joints standing on the bar at the Blackbird Saloon in Paggs, Oklahoma, because I could roll the best weed. It's just the way it was. I didn't know that wasn't normal. I did not know that was, you know, I mean, there's like this whole thing back then because they're like, you know, with the underground, there's a whole different set of rules. You know, so I knew the rules of like how to conduct yourself over here, and then over here, and then there has to be a separation of, you know, weed in public. You know, are these good people? Are these cool people? Or whatever the situation may be. And there's different levels of each group, you know. You got these do-gooders and all this kind of stuff over here. And you got these, you know, smokers and drinkers and tweakers and killers over here. You know what I'm saying? And you don't want to really you don't want to really press the buttons, in certain situations because it's deadly. Like some people would come around and Dad would give me the nod. You know what I mean? And I went with him on the truck one time, and we were out in California. And there was this guy, and he had these two dudes walking with him. It was in the parking lot. I believe it was the TA. It's out by LA. I think it's. I could drive right to it. I can't think of the name of it. Anyway, Truck Stops of America. We get out of the truck and we're walking across there. And these are giant parking lots, right? And I see this guy walking, and he's got this thing on his head. But then he's got these two dudes walking with him, and these dudes are the real deal. Like, I don't know what the picture of in your head is when I say the word Mossad, but it looked like two dudes that like enforced that. Not the guys calling the shots. The guy, like bodyguard type. And they were business suit, kind of like a power suit. It would be the best description of those two dudes. But the other dude was wearing like this white thing or whatever like that. And here I am, a smart ass kid. This is when I'm like 12. And my dad just looks at me. He's like, "Don't you dare!" You know what I mean? Because like we were smart ass. We've been on the radio talking shit. You know what I mean? Having a good time for days. And then now here we are walking across this truck stop parking lot, and I'm walking across there. And this guy, I don't know where he was going. I don't know where he was coming from, or whatever. But this dude, well, he was more than a dude. I don't know how to explain it, but we're walking across there, and Dad sees these people, and he looks down there at me or whatever like that, and I just cracked a smile, and he's like, gave me the nod, like, this is serious, you know what I mean? And I'm walking across there or whatever, and I made eye contact with that guy. Now, the two dudes walking, they were, you know what I mean? Situational awareness, on point type of guys. And, but the dude looked at me, and we made eye contact or whatever else like that. And there was just a second there, you know what I mean, where this dude just like, I don't know how to explain it. I don't know how to explain it. But this was not like some, it was a momentous moment. And I don't know who it was. I don't know a name or anything else like that. But it was a thing. And I remembered back to when I was, years and years later, that was when I was like 12. Later on, I'm like 25, whatever situation. I'm reading the Bible, and I have a lot of, at this point, there's been a lot of action. We'll just leave it there. And I'm reading about how the prophet went and he was talking to David and all this kind of stuff. And it started dawning on me like some of the qualifications of what the Creator is looking for in a leader. What the Creator is looking for in a man. You know what I mean? And I can train people to, roof a house or whatever. I've trained hundreds of people to lay shingles. I've trained hundreds of people to put on TPO and a modified hot tar roof and gravel and, leak detection and all this other kind of stuff, and I've worked building houses and all this kind of stuff. And I've worked one-on-one with these people in these places where they're sobering up, and it's just they think that their life's a mess because they're on drugs, but their life was a mess is why they started using drugs. And now they don't have no drugs. So they got the problem of the addiction plus whatever drove them to the addiction. And I was able to help a lot of people in those moments in ways that I didn't know what I was doing. I just was like, I've been there, that sucks. I hate that you're there. I've lost a house. You know what I mean? I've went into the holler and the tornado pass over. I've seen the death, destruction, the violence, the gangster shootouts, the highly professional overseas interactions of lead. and the dispatching of the enemy, whether it's a panther or a bear or an AK-47 guy in a dress, whatever. Whatever. You know what I mean? Like, and there's like this certain toughness that they build into you. But it was nothing like out there by myself, taking care of the animals. And I don't think I've ever went into the woods like with the intent of doing harm to some animal. You know what I mean? Like, that never crossed my mind. You know what I mean? But I would go harvest dinner. I had no problem with that whatsoever. Like, that was just like, I mean, how some of these people come to the conclusions that they get to, it's because they've never been there. Nobody back in the day, I can't say too much, man, it's difficult. But back in the day, there was a lot of guns that went in between Oklahoma and California. And the people in California did not know how to use them. And we would show them. And they paid good money for that. For knowing how to clean it, how to operate it. And then certain things, you can get all fancy pants and say, certain craft, I guess would be the word. You had to have the knack, baby. But it was real basic, like you're trying to retrieve the goat from the panther, and you got a fist full of iron and you're on the run, and you got to take the panther out to save the dog or the goat. I've seen it both ways. So then when I'm out there and we go into the desert and they meet us out there and everything like that, and we set up these I think it was Pepsi bottles back then. You remember the Pepsi bottles that had the little black thing on the bottom? You could pop it off there and cut it. Then you make like a deal where you grow your plants. It was that long ago. Okay? Like Michael Jackson was singing for Pepsi back then. So we would go out there, we would set these bottles up and everything, and we would shoot at them, do a little target practice and stuff like that. And we would show these guys, and I mean, in today's, I'll say it like this: they would probably have gold fronts on their teeth today. We'll just leave it there. And anyway, so a lot of these dudes, and then we would just be talking with them or whatever like that. And I'm with my dad, and he's older than they are, and everybody's older than I am. And then I'm interacting with these dudes on the side because, say you got 15 dudes and there's various, hardware. and they were, target practicing and doing some stuff, everything like that. I did like, well, it's anyway. I would say things to these people, and it was conveying things that they had never seen it from that perspective. And like by the end of the day, these dudes' mentality would be altered. Like they showed up this away, and now they're this away. Like it had changed. There was a shift. It is a gift that I've been given, that I've been stifled and thrown into a box. I've been stifled and put in this truck, and then when I'm at home now, like my wife knows none of these things. Like she's never been there when I was running a crew. She's never been there when I was on the lam running from the law. She's never been there when I was roofing a house a day. She wasn't there when, we were trucking in the 90s. And she wasn't there when it was at the end of the last dirt road. I'll see you in 3 months, son. You're the man of the house, and just leaves. And you don't see him for 3 months. You know what I mean? So it's like, I grew up with a mom and a dad, but he was gone. So it's like, you know what I mean? Was I growing up without a dad or not? Like, don't know. Latchkey type of kid, type of deal. And how much the more have I let my own children down? That's a big deal. That comes with a certain weight of guilt. So I can see it from a few different angles. And then this whole YouTube thing, and when Mom passed, and I see that video she made, I was like, this is cool. I need to leave my kids something like this. How can I miss this opportunity to just sit here? I'm just sitting here, you know what I mean? I'm just like, I'm bored anyway. Why would I not sit here and make a YouTube video, post it on the internet that it could live on, and then if my kid folk from the yonder, you know what I mean, can sit there and watch this stuff, man, that's cool. You know what I mean? Anyway, I end up over here. I go into this place. I woke up, it's cold, and started the truck and everything. So I just walk out, and every time I get out of the truck, I lock it. And every time I walk away from the truck, I'm like, oh, did I lock it? And I walk back and check, and it's locked every time. But because I wonder, I had to walk back again. So I got like, yeah. Anyway, so I spot the guy next to me. So I tell him a Jesus joke. And I go in the store, and I'm making that cup of coffee right there. And I start talking with the guy, and he's cleaning the roller grill and stuff. I'm like, you ever think about truck driving and stuff? Go see the country, blah, 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 this and that. Talked about business, brought it all the way back around that you read the Bible. And then explained to him why I read the Bible. I gave him testimony that I asked God to show me Himself. And I open my Bible and read it. So that's what I do. And it's amazing. It's really great. So I talked with that fella for quite a while. And then I see these two other guys. And they're like, all these used to have restaurants, yada, yada, yada. I'm like, I just cook in the truck. So I talked to him about propane and propane-related accessories for a minute. I explained to them the concept of eat your lawnmower. I said, when you're standing over there paying $17 for that sandwich you're fixing to buy at Subway, just remember, you could have had a cow just eat the grass in your front yard. Eat for free a steak instead of a Subway sandwich. It just makes a lot of sense. You know what I mean? And then I'm at the register, and I'm able to talk with that lady, and the whole be positive thing, and how cool that was. And to see the frumpy, upset, tired of it customer service lady, and then well, I'll just call a spade a spade. I mean, she's fat and kind of ugly, and then all the rest of them running around there, they're like wearing their freaking pajamas for some reason, and they're all just like the silhouette of what the internet tells you is pretty. So she's seeing these other ones, and she's probably jealous and definitely like they're not doing their job, whatever. And then they got like these tattoos on the back of their hands, down their fingers and stuff. It's just like, ew. Anyway. So I end up going to the counter and I talk to this lady or whatever like that. And I'm like, I grab these Reese's right here. I grabbed these right here. And I told that lady about steak. I said a ribeye steak's better than Prozac. I was like, eat you a steak about 3 times a week. So it'll help level out your hormones, because your vitamins and minerals that you'll take in, especially in the fat. Like, when you chew the fat, it tastes great. And she's like, yeah. I was like, your brain's mostly fat. I was like, and you can't actually have a headache. It's the membrane around your brain that's hurting or not. And that's generally hydration. You know what I mean? So I'm like, drink a lot of water, use your sea salt and pepper on your steak, eat a steak 3 times a week. So it'll level out your hormones. And she's like, oh yeah? And I'm like, yeah, I learned that reading the Bible. And it's like, be positive and all this kind of stuff. And then like, don't get tattoos on the back of your hands. I said, a real man thinks that's gross. And that look on her face. You know what I mean? In that moment where she thought it was possible. It just changes the whole world. A whole new world. A whole new world of possibilities. Living in the light of Jesus. Using these parables and stuff to try to describe the ways and the purpose and the goodness and the light. That's what Jesus did. And the stories, when you see what David lived through or whatever, you know what I mean? I had lived my life so long thinking there's no way God could use me for goodness. I'm so unqualified. And you could go back to the law, the beat you over the head, freaking kill him for walking too far on Saturday type of law, and you will go back and look at that, and you'll see the mercy, grace, and kindness. You'll see it all through the Bible. It's all right there. You're so much more qualified for mercy at the moment that I may just forgive me. I'm a sinner. Help me serve you. I want to do right. I don't know how. Show me. Rebuke me. Set me apart from this crooked and evil world. I had a situation one time, and Jesus asked me, "What do you want?" And I didn't know what to say. I just said, "I just want to hang out with you." Because I was like, what do you say? What would you say? You know what I mean? I know what I would say because I was there. I was like, I just kind of want to hang out with you. You know what I mean? Like, what better? You know what I mean? And that was, I mean, just an instant, on the spot, from the heart, a random answer to a situation. And since then, in my life, I have walked this. The world's a twisted, evil place, and I'm a truck driver. You know what I mean? So I'm like, I see my failings, and I'm like, am I Satan roaming to and fro in the earth? You know what I mean? Like, am I doing right? You know what I mean? Like, am I even helping anybody? Like, bringing these used tires? You know what I mean? And the trip up here was tequila. You know what I'm saying? Like, dude, it's a truck. I open the doors and back up to the dock. I don't know what they put in there. I don't know what they take out. And then, like, I'm super paranoid, so I'm like, holy shit. You know what I mean? What if there's something that ought not, you know? Everybody speaks Spanish. Like, everywhere I go. That's the psycho part that most Americans don't realize. If you got your stuff in a truck, brought it, and a Mexican loaded it, and a Mexican unloaded it, almost 100% of the time. That's for real. There's thousands of trucking companies that are ran by Pakistan, India, freaking Canada, Mexico. You know what I'm saying? It's all over the place. You get up there. I loaded one time in Boston. There's a guy. He's whiter than I am. Start talking to him. He didn't even speak English. He was from Poland. You know, dude, it's wild. It's, you know, anybody red hair? They're probably Irish. You know what I'm saying? Dude. And then nowadays, like, I mean, you'll even see. I just see the thing. This black guy was all mad, talking about go back to your country. You know what I mean? You know, it's like I could just feel the Indian with the tear. You know what I mean? Crying about pollution. Anyway, now, I just want you guys to know that, man, you're qualified. You're qualified in the eyes of God because of what God did. Like, you cannot earn it. You can't earn it. But you gotta let the babies be babies. Okay? But you gotta grow up. You gotta mature. You know what I'm saying? You can't just, you know, we're not going to change your diaper forever. You got to grow up into His ways. You have to. You have to. It'd be a crime not to.